It's an honor and a privilege to be here today. It's my actually first trip to Dubai, and it's such a marvelous city, and I've enjoyed our time so far. This is always an interesting question. As you sit there in the audience and ask yourself, when was the last time you looked on the inside and said, gee, I wonder if I'm employable? You may not ask that now because you are gainfully employed, but think about the hundreds of thousands of applicants that are applying to your organizations on a regular basis. Many of them ask that question and struggle with this topic every day. The difference these days, though, is with the competitive markets, perhaps your organization is having to decide what are the best characteristics that we want to focus on for our upcoming applicants or our new hires. Hopefully, through this talk, what I can do is introduce a couple of concepts to you. What I want to focus on is what's the notion, or what's driving the notion of unemployability or employability in the marketplace. The second is talk about some common selection strategies. Talk about screening in individuals to an organization versus screening out. And then also leave you with 3 or 4 key concepts that we're focused on, not only from a research perspective, but helping our organizations and our clients daily get the right people in the right roles. With that said, the success of any organization depends on who's working in the business. Organizations that make better hiring decisions are more productive, have less turnover, and have more satisfied and engaged employees. Subsequently, organizations that make poor decisions have higher turnover, less staff morale, and customer service scores that are just abysmal. The challenge that organizations have to ask, though, is who are the right individuals? How do they contribute to the success of the organization? Most previous research on this topic has focused really on skills. That is, who are our MBAs? Who are the most skilled and intelligent, the brightest coming out of their organization and out of their class? What we've learned over the last decade is skills don't drive organizational success. Worldwide, what we've seen from the headlines is that skills, while important, are causing more challenges in organizations than they are success. Worldwide, the majority of developing countries have a problem, and it's called a shortage of staff or shortage of individuals who are actually employable. Think about this country and the native population versus those that are having to come and work in Dubai and the greater GCC area to drive the organizational success. Just some of the headlines from around the world. You can see people asking, are skills coachable? Is employability coachable? The Times of India estimates that only 18% of their engineering grads, which, by the way, every year they graduate roughly 750,000 engineering graduates, only 18% are actually employable. And then I love the line by the former CEO of Southwest Airlines in the United States who said, you don't hire for skill, you hire for attitude. You can always teach the skills. Only 7% of the hotel management graduates are employable, and roughly 10% of general grads in general. What all these surveys tell us is employees lack a basic skill. You may say, wait a second, Ryan, you just said skills weren't important. Well, what skill they lack are 34% lack basic people skills, being able to communicate effectively with others. 25% are reported to lack drive or ambition. They expect your organization to give it to them rather than earning it themselves. And then 15% just don't know how to interact with their colleagues and build abusive and or uncollegial work environments. What's driving this? Well, part of it is the global unemployment rates, or in some markets, the lack of unemployment. We're overemployed in some markets. The other thing is people's belief that I have to go into the field of study that I participated in, say in university. General employability, regardless, helps organizations sort which candidates are good from a natural perspective, from a personal perspective, and then those that can actually learn the job and work hard to achieve it. One of the things that I think we have to be mindful of is location, markets, and demographics. So for those of you working in a multinational environment, what you find is in different market segments you operate, you have plenty of applicants. You're in a buyer's position. You can afford to be quite picky. You can afford to truly screen and assess individuals to ensure the proper job and organizational fit. Others of you are in a labor shortage market to where you don't have the luxury of being very picky and precise in your hiring process. Rather, what you're doing is looking for someone who will actually show up, be somewhat nice to people, and perhaps be trainable. The other thing is if you're in a market that requires a lot of specialization, you may find that you are completely out of qualified individuals. Surprisingly, right now in the United States, there is a shortage of transportation drivers. So individuals that are out on the road driving lorries. Why is that? Well, the warehouse and the order fulfillment and direct shipping business in the United States, in part thanks to Amazon, has exploded. One recent report from a major U.S. carrier says they have over 165 trucks parked in one of their trucking centers because they don't have drivers to actually drive those trucks, but yet they have the freight to move. And so for them, they're actually losing business. I mentioned India earlier as well. The India market is overwhelmed with engineering candidates. What you often find is individuals at the front desk of a hotel or of a resort actually having an advanced degree in engineering. However, the number of jobs available is quite low given their skills. Or you take in contrast what's happening, say, in the Netherlands, where in the Netherlands, you don't work outside of your career. And so organizations that need individuals to be more flexible, to take on additional tasks, perhaps are just saying, no, that's not my job, it's not what I'm qualified for. What we do know, though, is that organizational success depends on money and people. And at Hogan, we tend to think we know a lot about people, which we do with over 30 years of research. The decision on whom to employ is actually one of the most consequential decisions an organization will make. Too often, though, we find organizations are unwilling to just simply ask for assistance or help. Rather, what they do is they rely on old or outdated hiring and screening methods, believing at the core of it all that they're a better judge of character than anyone else. What people are really after when we think about success is driving and increasing productivity, reducing turnover, and increasing engagement. And so that means you have to have applicants and you have to have individuals in the organization that are actually employable. And what does that mean from a Hogan perspective? First, it's the ability to initially gain and maintain employment. Second, it's the ability to make employment transitions or to grow and develop within your role. And third, it's the ability to obtain new employment if necessary. And those are the individuals who are actually, I think, the commodity in the talent war or the talent trade that we have. The question most organizations ask is, what differentiates people who can obtain a role, grow and develop in it, and maintain or find a new one? And what I would say is, it's their personalities. And personality has a direct link to employability. What we find is that organizations that use personality have a key insight into individuals' underlying characteristics that drive their behavior, that drive their performance. And remember, when we talk about personality at Hogan, we're not talking about the you that you know. We're talking about your reputation. We're talking about the things people say and evaluate you on based on their perception of you on a daily basis. The other thing about personality is it gives us a probability of how others will actually perform their work. So gathering hundreds of thousands of data points of people and job performance and correlating the two, we're actually able to talk about how scores on certain dimensions of personality predict different types of job performance. The other thing unique about personality, and to segue somewhat back to what Bob was saying, it also gives us a model to coach and develop others. So understanding their personality, and are they emergent or are they actually effective? And those are the key things that organizations need to know. And then finally, it's truly personality will help us predict that effectiveness factor. So being able to differentiate someone who's very positive and very attractive in an interview versus someone who will actually perform on the job when they're given the task. What assessments really help us do in predicting individual differences is a very straightforward thing, and that is we all know people are different, but we're actually quite consistent. And so if we're able to measure those consistencies, if we're able to measure those differences between individuals, we can actually start to help inform the hiring process. People often say, well, our hiring is done by recruiters. How does all this impact recruiters? Well, typically your recruiters and even your high-level search consultants, they're focused on the aspects of a candidate that really put the candidate's best face forward. So again, those emergent characteristics that Bob was just talking about, that charisma cluster. Is someone able to come in and talk about the things they've recognized are wrong with your organization and that they can help fix immediately? Are they able to tell good stories? Are they able to relate to your organization's culture based on what they know, what they've read? Or are they individuals that are simply putting up a mask or a facade telling you what you want to hear? People often challenge, well, no, I'm a very good judge of character. Well, the base rate of divorce in the United States is over 50%. If we can't get the most important decision we ever make in our life right through a judge of character, what makes us think that we're a good judge of character simply based on an interview or on a resume screen? So applying personality-based assessment tools to this process really does help uncover some of those characteristics. Specifically, it helps us understand how is an individual going to do it getting along with other people, getting ahead, and really finding meaning. So breaking those down a little bit, it really has to do with how do I get ahead? What's my drive? What's my acceptance? What's the respect? What do I find that's respect? What do I find that is going to reject my ability to move forward? Second is really around how I get along. So this is in terms of social relationships. The challenge, of course, is getting along and getting ahead exists in this state of tension. I have to compete with people that I'm also supposed to get along with to move forward in the organization. And some people do that much better than others. And then finally, how do I derive meaning? It's really around structure and consideration. So how do I find ambiguity? Do I find that stressful? Do I find that something I can deal with? Or do I need an organization that allows me to operate within a controlled box or a controlled environment? Using personality to give us feedback on a person's willingness or ability to get along and get ahead, and then also the type of environment that they need to strive in, again, helps to peel back what traditionally has been that best face forward approach. So when we talk about the hiring process, when we talk about what organizations are really focused on, and we reflect back on, is the person even able to get a job? Can they keep it? And can they learn and develop? What we really want to do is we want to think about what are our best practices. And some of the environmental factors that play into these best practices are, what's the labor market? What are your applicant pools? And this ranges everything from entry-level roles, say in the front desk of a hospitality organization, all the way to the C-suite. What truly is the applicant pool that you're dealing with? The second thing is, how do you best use assessments and processes within that applicant flow? So many of our executive selection clients, again, that's a lot of resume screens, it's word of mouth, it's referral. What they do is they'll wait till the end to actually put someone through more of a traditional assessment center, where individuals that have, and we'll talk briefly about screening out thousands of applicants, it's more important to focus on those characteristics very quickly that can help really hone in on the top talent. Recruiters, though, traditionally are focused on applicant flow, attainment cost, as well as just what I call putting people in seats. That's how their success is measured. Is our entry-level training class full? How many customer service manager positions do we have, and how long is it going to take us to fill those? We believe, though, the first and the most critical question that has to be asked is, what is your philosophy around applicant screening? And to do that, let's talk a little bit about some of the pre-hire tools that are often used. Applications and interviews are much like your profile page on Twitter or LinkedIn or Facebook, Snapchat, whatever the social media is that you're engaged in. It's something that you use that individuals hope will give you a real clear snapshot and high-level overview of who you are and what you're about. We also hope that if it's fun, if it's entertaining, if it's interesting, people might think that we are employable. Where assessments, on the other hand, help quickly and efficiently look behind that mask. So looking beyond the Facebook page or the LinkedIn page to understand, what are you really capable of doing? Truly, what could be your effectiveness if we were to decide to bring you into the organization? Beyond that, organizations have two strategies, and those strategies are what we call screening in and screening out. In a screen-in strategy, you're concerned about retaining only the top candidates. And so this is a situation where it's what I consider to be high-stakes testing. So these are your critical and sensitive hires, your chief marketing officer, your executive directors, your call center managers, your property managers, individuals that really have the opportunity, if you get it wrong, to alienate staff, to cause disengagement, and ultimately to cause business challenges within your organization. The challenge oftentimes with the screen-in mentality is this does require resources. This is not something that's easily automated within an applicant tracking or an HRIS system. Conversely, you have the screen-out mentality, where really it's looking at the criteria above all else. And what I mean by that is very applicable for high-volume solutions, for lower-level positions, where there's oftentimes a multiple hurdle. Can you simply work 5 days a week? Can you work shift work? Do you have transportation? General knockout questions that are used as part of that automated process. This is often a low resource demand because you're able to let systems and algorithms take the place of human judgment. What's very interesting is if you look time after time and at longitudinal studies, a screen-out mentality, although it may take longer to fill roles, actually has better prediction than a screen-in mentality. And we'll talk about why shortly. So with a screen-in approach, what you're really concerned about is a score and how they compare to other applicants. So whether that be a score on an assessment, a score on a resume review, you're really comparing your top 2 or 3 candidates in terms of their strengths, their challenges, their perceived fit with the culture, and then ultimately, perhaps, what is their background and experience. In a screen-out perspective, we're really concerned about the algorithm. We're really concerned about almost a dichotomous decision. Is this someone who meets what we're looking for from an automated standpoint or not? So do we recommend or do we not recommend? What's fascinating to me is organizations that continue to apply a more black and white algorithm to the hiring process, time and time again show higher productivity. They show lower turnover because they're quickly and easily eliminating individuals from the hiring process. The challenge that you may have, though, is you have a lot of people that perhaps look highly employable, but have very few skills or don't have the experiences that you're looking for. And because that ability to do business depends on having a repertoire of social skills, candidates with good attitudes oftentimes benefit organizations more than they know. Given the current generation's openness to continually changing jobs and careers, someone who is highly employable but doesn't have the skills you think they need at day one perhaps is your best decision in terms of bringing into the organization. As we see with the number of graduates and the number of individuals that are entering the job market, very few are actually entering the job market in the field of study that they've just completed. So as you see here, even a QR code on top of a graduation hat, the desperation is out there. Only 22% of recent graduates are working in jobs that don't require a college degree. However, over half of those are not working in a field in which their college degree is in. You can say that's because of the gig economy that's developing. You can say that that's because of the tech economy that has developed, or just the way that individuals are wanting more flexibility within their daily environments. So what are the skills? What are the characteristics that we feel like drive general employability? The first one is what we call people skills, and it's simply being able to work well with others. So being cooperative, being considerate, helping others achieve their goals. So what that really helps us understand from our perspective is what type of internal and external customer service are they going to be able to provide? So often we think about customer service being on the outside of the organization, but truly every individual has customers inside the organization. So how are they going to drive those conversations and be effective at communicating? The second characteristic that we talk about in terms of general employability is learning skills. So how quickly will an individual pick up and understand not only their current role, but roles that you ask them to move into? So learning skills really concerns the ability to learn essential functions of the job, learn new skills as the job changes over time. Formal education is oftentimes needed. However, I would say with the millennials, with the Gen X individuals that we're all dealing with, it's that adaptability and flexibility. This is also where the popular term, are they a digital individual, starts to come into play. We have several writings about the whole tsunami, I'll say, of digital leadership and everybody's concerns around, are they digital this or are they digital that? Learning skills drives the answer to that question. Individuals who are willing to embrace technology, individuals who are learning and willing to adapt to the ever-flowing pace of technology and information can be successful in any organization, but they have to be willing to keep up to date. The third thing that we talk about is work ethic. And work ethic is really about being able to take instruction, work hard, and produce high-quality results in a timely fashion. And I think the timely fashion is what we stress a lot. Work ethic has historically been considered a critical competency for every job. Sometimes it was referred to as integrity, and that hasn't changed today. Employees who can be counted on to get the job done no matter what tend to be seen as are in high demand and sought after by every employer that we run across. So again, people skills, learning skills, and work ethic are the foundation of any job, regardless if it's an entry-level position all the way up to the C-suite. So when we think about this, and this is just an example, if we think about people skills, being blunt and direct versus being pleasant and rewarding. Learning skills, having a focused interest, being versatile and curious, and work ethic, being easily distractible versus being dependable and hardworking. If I think about a role, say, with high people skills, low learning skills, and a high work ethic, these people may fit wonderfully in your organization as a customer service representative, as a cashier, as someone who's dealing with frontline client issues. The challenge that you have to know in employing them is that as the job changes, you're going to have to proactively teach and develop. They're not going to be individuals that pick up things very quickly on their own. Conversely, someone with lower people skills, high learning skills, moderate, higher work ethic may be great in the financial services sector. Audit, compliance. Again, for them, the people skills component is not that critical. You may actually want someone in your audit group who's willing to confront issues in a very interpersonally positive way, but at the same point, not mince words. Really, though, the whole purpose of this slide is just to give an example that different combinations of these skills can be critical for different jobs. People often say, well, Hogan, what about the research behind this? How do you approach actually knowing that the assessments and these characteristics drive performance? And to be technical for just a minute, what we've done and what this slide really illustrates is across hundreds of studies and thousands of individuals, what we've identified are key characteristics that drive basic job performance, and then created algorithms to help organizations use those algorithms to drive success in their business. And how do we prove that when we talk about organizational success? We do it through ROI, or return on investment. And I'd encourage you, regardless of what you do around your selection processes, always look for how are we differentiating performance of people that we're bringing in. Is our process actually working and returning results? This is a great example from the banking industry. So these are tellers or customer service representatives within the banking industry. And what you find is that people that are higher in terms of people skills, learning skills, and work ethic, they're over twice as likely to be rated as high performers in their current role. And if you think about that from the bank's perspective, if I can increase performance and customer satisfaction, I'm driving client retention. So why would I leave my current institution and go across the street if I'm getting good service, if I enjoy the people that I'm interacting with every time that I go into the branch or make a phone call? You see the same thing in the telecommunications industry. Here you're seeing that individuals with higher, what we call interpersonal skills in this study, they're 10 times more likely to be rated as high performers during training and 6 times more likely to be rated as high performers in terms of dealing with their teammates. Again, these are types of results that you should expect from using good validated selection processes. What I love here is they're making 78% more sales per hour and have a 57% reduction or less instances of calling in or taking unscheduled time off. Driving performance in the application and the selection process drives bottom line business unit performance. And you see that across a lot of different industries. Here, entry-level clerical positions, again, more likely to be rated as achieving results, customer satisfaction, learning skills, people skills, and work ethic. So what I'd like to just conclude by is saying the following. Assessment in general has a job to do, and assessment from Hogan has a job to do in predicting performance. I don't really care what the individual score is, and I know that may sound short, but I really don't. I care about what the score predicts, and I care about, if we're measuring general employability characteristics, how those characteristics drive success in the organization. The other thing I'd like you to remember is the brightest, smartest people that you've ever met, a lot of them are not employable. And in organizations, what we've done is we've created a group called individual contributors, oftentimes for those individuals. They can't survive within the mainstream of the organization, so we make special roles for them. And because of that, success in any business really depends on people and learning skills and work ethic. Thank you very much. Happy to take any questions.
My name is Dalal, my question is actually, you can predict based on personality traits, but over the years you build behaviors as well to adjust to certain circumstances. Obviously, if you are closer from a personality perspective, it will be easier. But how do you then take that behavioral part into the decision?
I think that's a great question, so let me rephrase it just a little bit, and that is, personality does predict performance, but what about behaviors? And what about behaviors over time? And I think that's the difference between hiring somebody into the organization that's brand new versus, say, promoting and developing talent. Because what we know and what's widely accepted in the field is personality does not change over time. It's quite stable. Someone, though, who has been engaged in very intensive development activities, someone that has taken feedback to heart, their assessment results may show that they have some challenges in terms of moving up in the organization. And that's why when we're talking about succession planning or talent management, it's a combination of assessment data and job performance data currently in their role. The best job performance data comes out of 360 data, and that comes from not the boss's ratings, but from the subordinates' ratings, because those are the individuals who are actually seeing the impact of that leader or manager's daily behaviors. So you can't discount behavior. However, what we would say is as you move someone into a different role, they have to constantly be reminded, or we go back to what's natural, and personality is what's natural. It's a great question.